I believe my grandfather is in the future. Maybe he was reborn a few minutes ago at Beth Israel, perhaps 100 years from now in some unknown complex, or even in a commune of beautiful people who've opted out of the economic experiment and have decided to devote themselves to the land the same way his own father did way back when. Wherever he is, I believe he's there in the future. Maybe he'll decide to be an educator again, roaming the halls of higher education institutes, this time teaching young adult minds about the math that predicts the future, or helping to genetically engineer plants that would make George Washington Carver leap with joy. Hell, maybe George Washington Carver is there too, since they probably knew each other back then. Maybe they've reconnected in the future and are creating trees that can spread roots across dimensions and develop fruit that can allow us to see the full spectrum of light. Maybe they discuss the mycorrhizal network and its potential to heal all health issues on their walks to and from lunch, while every tree, bush, and flower bend in their direction with a subtle yet unhidden adoration. Maybe in the future, my grandfather is a vegan. No. No, he didn't like that. But we can play. Or maybe in the future, he leaves my grandmother alone. Lets her pursue her own dreams with no obligations or roles that she doesn't choose for herself. Maybe he nods to her from across the cafe where he sits with George in the future. Maybe she's reading a book and she nods back. There's that professor again, she thinks. I know him from somewhere though. She'll before packing her things and heading back to the anti-gravity research lab. Go ahead, Grandma. Maybe my grandfather has found solace with the George Washington Carver of the future, talking his ear off about pecans, walnuts, Pythagoras, calculus, and the rhythms of the universe, while George chats his ear off about the new advances in plant communication. I sang a lullaby to a rose, he sighs, and it sang back. What was its voice like, my grandfather excitedly inquires, while sipping a coffee that contains amino acids that clean your arteries and regulate blood pressure. James, when I tell you they sound like angels, like children, but old and wise and made of gold, would you understand what I mean? Of course I do, my grandfather grins. Of course you do, George Washington Carver chuckles. There's a lingering silence. Oh shit. Is my grandfather a little sweet on George Washington Carver? Let's see. They always prefer to work together. They found a way to grow peanuts on the moon together. They sometimes vacation in the clouds of Venus together. They return from that experience with a new idea to create a plant that can take root in cloud systems and regulate weather. Maybe that's where they fell in love. Or maybe it's complicated. But maybe they're young and hopeful and curious and filled with awe for the possibilities, and their bodies are strong and their hearts pump DNA free of trauma hormones through their blood vessels, and they can take deep breaths just as easily as the wind blows. Maybe they've met ignorant people, but they don't know the stabbing pains of hatred. Maybe they don't have to defend their existence. They don't feel the pressures to strive for excellence. They just simply follow their curiosities and go where they lead, and they attain excellence because they just are excellent. No economic or social structures determine their path, just love and excitement. They don't play at roles. They express themselves freely without the oppression of muttering stares, and create with a sense of pure joy and a desire to share. They have so many brilliant ideas which flow out of them like sweet milk nurturing the fruits of their labors, and they're just fucking happy. James Allen Holbrook and George Washington Carver. And maybe in the future, they know the secrets of past lives, of reincarnation. Maybe my grandfather makes a trip to Neshoba County, Mississippi once a year just for a night to camp on the land that used to be ours, just to honor himself. Maybe he visits his own grave. He plants a specially engineered flower whose scent transcends space-time so that the attendees of his past life's funeral gets a mysterious whiff of geraniums while they lower his casket. Perhaps he has a conversation with the body lying 6 feet under him, his body, one of many, who, though dangerously flawed, was revered by many for the way he elevated the minds of others, a victim of excellence. In theory, he could remember old bonds and visit my father's grave, Henry Benjamin Holbrook, and apologize. He plants a pecan tree that he engineered and eats one of the pecans, which allows his consciousness to leave his time and travel wherever he wants. And he visits an 88-year-old Henry Holbrook in his dreams, telling him that the future is not as horrible as it seems and that it's filled with wonders that he couldn't even imagine. And he hugs him for what feels like hours and tells him that he's proud and that raising a beautiful, intelligent black family is more than enough. And maybe after visiting many others, he makes a stop at my grave, wherever it may be. I think something about it will make him laugh. And he'll plant a Camellia sinensis, a tea plant, 6 feet above my remains. He and George engineered this tea plant based off of a dream he had. He brews a cup. He sits on my headstone. He takes a sip, which allows for him to share his thoughts with anyone, past, present, or future, who's also sipping a cup of Camellia sinensis, of black tea. "Hello, grandson," he says. I smile as I sip my own. "Allow me to tell you about my life in the future, just in case you needed reassurance that we exist there too. Feel free to write this all down. Thank you."